What's up, buckos? Another driving thing again. Yeah, I've been out taking care of a couple things today. If you ever wonder why there's car videos, it's because there is just a lot of stuff in between. There's big changes that are happening, both on this channel and in my life as well too. And we're kind of shifting things around. But the reason I wanted to make this video is sometimes I feel right, okay? When I feel right, I got this smile on my face, boys. Now, iPhone 15, Apple, ladies and gentlemen, it is a weird release for this company. Now, I made my video where I basically told you how Apple is screwed, how a lot of their big changes for their iPhone, they literally had to do it because the law compelled them to. So when they were changing the little port at the bottom from Lightning to USB-C, don't listen to the marketing fluff where they were like, yeah, faster data I mean, that's true, faster data throughputs and everything, but don't think they were doing this out of the kindness of their hearts. Their iPhones were the last holdouts. And if it wasn't for the Europeans, they probably would have kept it going on for another year or two. Now, I'm going to straight up say that most modern smartphones, whether you buy it from Apple, Samsung, Google, are pretty good. And the reason why I say they're pretty good is because back when I was a younger kid, the original iPhones, the original Android devices, this is a period of mobile processors and hardware that was just not fast. Okay, you had single core processors, you had phones that would get slow, their battery life would be dog shit in 6 months. And anytime a firmware update would happen, the phones would get even slower. Okay, we're talking phones would just stop. They would get sluggish in a matter of years. Now, most modern devices, whether you buy an Android device or an iPhone device, or really even laptops or desktop CPUs, most of these products have a pretty long shelf life, in my opinion, for general usage, right? If you buy a phone from 3-4 years ago, it may still even be supported nowadays. iPhones, as far back as the iPhone 7, when they had that weird haptic click button, that phone still is alive to this day. And the reason I know that is my dad uses that phone, okay? That's the phone I gave to my dad when I upgraded years down the road, okay? My dad needed a phone, I gave him the iPhone 7. That shit, surprisingly, still works. Now, from what I understand, it doesn't get too many updates, but it's kind of EOL, but it works. It's smooth, you can make a call, you can browse, web pages, you can do everything. The point of that is most modern day devices are strong enough, even years ago, that their processors, the hardware inside them, can pretty much support these modern mobile operating systems and everything, right? For most people, using a phone means making a call, sending a text, browsing the web, watching a video, and with most modern mobile processors, doesn't take too much effort to do that, right? So when I see these lineups every year at the Apple store here in Toronto and you fucking up in Niagara Falls, whatever. I don't even know if there's a Niagara Falls Apple store, but the point is, anywhere I see an Apple store, day one, people are lined up for their iPhones. And, it's okay to upgrade your phone year after year. I don't even dog people for that, okay? First off, a cell phone is probably one of the most used devices in your technical arsenal, right? So if somebody wants to upgrade their phone, as pointless as it may be year after year, not that big of a deal. But the iPhone 15 is a wild conundrum, okay? The reason why I'm talking about it is because iPhone 15s and 15 Pros and Pro Maxes and Prolapses, whatever the fuck they've made, that stuff is burning as hot as the goddamn sun, relatively for phones. Now, back in the day, there used to be this product called the Samsung Galaxy Note 7. And it was basically a hand grenade, okay? It was so bad that airline companies wouldn't let you bring that shit on an airplane, okay? If you had a Note 7 on you, you'd be turned away quicker than an ISIS agent, you know what I mean? Because you were the actual threat. That phone could blow up. That phone could cause some serious issues. It wasn't because the phone was bad. It was just way too powerful. Something about the battery expanded to the point where if you ever seen lithium batteries go on fire, it's bad. This device caused burns. It blew up. It was not a good situation. So Samsung recalled, and when they actually released the follow-up device, they were like, let's roll it back a little bit, okay? Maybe not focus so much on the power as we should focus on the safety. Now, Apple, being as intelligent as they are, keep making upgrades to the iPhone, right? And they're not big upgrades, but the upgrades are usually in like the processors, right? So the A14 Bionic, 15, 16, 17, M1, M2, M3. Apple makes good processors, especially for their laptops and desktops now. And for their phones, they don't do a bad job either. The new iPhones have like hardware ray tracing, all of this crazy stuff. Like, it is a lot of power for obviously a pretty expensive price tag. The point of it is, why? So if you ever looked into the Apple like showcase when we were looking at it, they showed games like Death Stranding, Resident Evil 4 Remake, Resident Evil Village. Hell, there's even a new Division game that looks like it's a PS4 quality title. And I have to ask, who's playing Resident Evil 4 Remake on the phone? Okay, even if you connect a controller through it, come on, there's got to be a better way to do it, okay? Come on now. Like, let's just relax a little bit. Yes, mobile gaming is getting better, it's getting kind of cool, but there's a problem with running a game like that, and it's called heat. So the new iPhones can go as hot as up to 47 degrees Celsius. For Americans in the audience, which I know there's a fair amount of them, that's above 100 degrees Fahrenheit, okay? So 46, 47 degrees Celsius, sorry if I said Fahrenheit earlier. Yeah, that translates to over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. This thing is a literal hand grenade in your hand. And why is that? Well, because the device can get so hot under two reasons. A, charging. Usually when you have a modern device now, especially one that charges with USB-C, fast charging, so when your device is at like 0% or 10%, it just loads a shit ton of amperage through your port to the point where your battery gets really hot, but it charges fast. And obviously when you're at 50 to 60 to 70 to 80 to 90%, it gradually lessens the charge delivered, so your device gets a little bit cooler. So that's understandable. iPhones have been getting, hotter than the surface of Mercury for years now. The problem here is the gaming that I mentioned. So obviously, if you're running a game like Resident Evil 4 Remake with ray tracing, even if it's running at 30 frames a second, and I've heard this device can go up to like 40, 50 frames, which is impressive, the device has no cooling on it. So just imagine for a minute, you are playing a PS4, PS5 grade level game on your phone. And Resident Evil 4 Remake is not something like Candy Crush that you sit down on the fucking toilet and you maybe go through a few rounds. No, you're committed for a little bit, okay? You're playing this game. They want you to play Death Stranding, okay? You know what Death Stranding is? Amazon Prime Delivery Simulator without the trucks, okay? Imagine if your Amazon Prime Delivery man had to fight like otherworldly beings, kaiju monsters. Yeah, Amazon Prime wouldn't be a thing. It wouldn't be 1 day shipping. You'd be lucky to get 1 month shipping. That game is a commitment, and they want you to commit to playing that on a touch screen on a mobile device. So battery life, you don't got to worry about that, because before the battery life goes to 0%, the device is going to burn out. It's touching 48 degrees Celsius. Now, the reason why it's super wild for Apple to do this is you make a really powerful CPU, right? But if there is no active cooling on the phone, meaning there's no fan, there's no exhausting, how can you... That is probably one of the biggest design flaws that I've ever seen. And the reason I'm making this video is because this design flaw has become pretty evident. Since the launch of this phone, the amount of heat it generates, it has drawn more articles than anything I've ever seen. And it's actually a serious problem. And the only fix to this problem is to actually send out a software update that limits the capabilities of the processor as so that it consumes less charge, less power. It generates less heat. To which I ask the question, that just negates the entire purpose of anybody upgrading to this device in the first place. If you upgraded to this device because you wanted to play like Assassin's Creed Mirage for some reason, which, again, I don't know why you'd want to play it on a touch device, even with like an attachable controller. Dog, there are a million better ways to play Assassin's Creed Mirage, and it does not have to start with an iPhone, okay? The fact that they released this device in this state, and now this whole heat issue is coming out, is something that could have easily been avoided. I don't understand this concept of creating the all-in-one device, because that's really what it's trying to be. That's what most of these modern devices want you to be. They want you to use your phone for everything, okay? They don't want you to touch any other device. They want you to be on their phone. They want you to be entirely on their ecosystem. Ladies and gentlemen, the iPhone 15 might be one of the dumbest releases Apple has done. Might be one of the most pointless releases that Apple has done in regards to upgrading their technology. In the process of giving you a strong processor that only a handful of applications are going to be using, things like games, for instance, like Resident Evil 4 Remake, which, let's be honest, for most people buying this phone is going to be a novelty. Even if that game is $60, good luck trying to get mobile gamers to pay $60 for a fucking mobile game. I know it's weird when somebody buys a $2,000 phone and it doesn't want to pony up $60, but historically, phone gamers are not people that are typically paying full price release money for their video games. So interesting choice by Apple to go down this gaming route. But now that they've went down the gaming route and they've created the hardware just doesn't seem to be up for the task, okay? Because if you're going to be persistently playing these games on your phone with no form of cooling, even the Nintendo Switch, which is roughly around the same architecture, if you look at the top of it, there's a fan. And depending on what game you play, like Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, you can feel hot air blow out of it. Why? Because in order to function and sustain those loads, you need to make sure the temperatures are down. Because realistically, if this phone gets this hot now, when that Resident Evil game drops, it's probably going to run at 30 frames for like 20 minutes and 30 minutes. But once that temperature gets hot enough, the frame rate's going to have to dip to like 20, 15, just so the device doesn't die. It starts TJ maxing, like thermal junctioning, okay? So, wild release by Apple, man. Honestly, cannot imagine it. I've seen other videos of like a guy breaking his phone, like with his thumbs, like just putting the center of like force at the phone and like breaking. People are like, look at how weak the phone is, which I think is the stupidest video imaginable. Yeah, it's like, by the way, I ran over my phone. Oh, it broke. Yeah, I applied this insane amount of unrealistic force on my device and the screen cracked. Really? Really now? Ladies and gentlemen, probably one of the dumbest releases by Apple, but hey, you know. One thing I've learned about Apple stuff is the fan base is there. They will buy no matter what. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I got a little yandere thing to be looking into. I'm out.